The NEET-UG 2026 paper leak controversy has now opened up serious questions, not just about how the paper leaked, but also about whether certain regions showed highly unusual result patterns even before the scam exploded nationally. Joining me now is Maheshwer Peri, founder and CEO of Career 360, whose data analysis claims Sikar recorded an unusually high number of top NEET scores compared to the national average. He says these patterns deserve deeper investigation as the NEET paper leak providence across the country. Thank you so much, sir, for joining me on Point. And let me just ask you, you came to this figure of 1.29%, 7.48%, nearly 580% higher than the national benchmark. Do you think that this entire thing deserves a deeper probe?
So I'll tell you, Karthikeya, how this entire data came up. First of all, for the first time in the history of India, in 2024, all the data was released for public because the Supreme Court mandated to NTA that release all the data and let people come back with their analysis so that we can start hearing based on their point of view also. Otherwise, NTA was sitting on some rich data and the respondents were, petitioner was not having any data. So it is based on Supreme Court mandate that this data was released. In 24, 23.33 lakh students took the examination. And the government medical seats were about 28,000. Right. So now you look at it, of the 23.33 lakh, you're dealing with about 28,000 seats being in government medical seats, which means you're dealing with 1.2 and 1.3%. Right. So that's the first math that you're dealing with. Now, when we looked at it, anyone who's getting 650 plus, it can be 645 or 655, one is not getting there, is ideally a candidate who is likely to get a rank of about 27, 28, 29,000, because of which they're likely to get a seat in government medical college. That is the math that we're talking about. Now, the thing is, because the data was available for all the 23.33 lakh students of how much score they had, which center they sat in, which city their center was, and which state they belong to and all, and category सब कुछ data अपने पास था. So we mapped it against all students across all cities, across all centers. So that is the data that we're talking of. This authentic data released by NTA based on a Supreme Court mandate, Supreme Court instruction rather. Now, when we looked at that data, we realized that Sikar has a very unusual high number of students who are getting 650 plus. In fact, many people got 700 plus and 720 plus. भी आए थे उधर, 4-5 बच्चों का आया था. This is the first tranche, by the way, when it came in. Now, so when we looked at that data, that was what struck us, saying कि इतना ज़्यादा result कैसे आता है. So the first thing can be that, listen, it's a coaching hub, so the result there would be very high. So we needed to justify that. So what did we do? We said, okay, Sikar is a coaching hub as much as Kota is a coaching hub. Let us first compare the two. Sikar outdid Kota 2 times over in terms of success rates. So if coaching hub would influence a result, then Kota should also be influenced, right? Because it's close by, it is within Rajasthan and everything is going for Kota also. So it is 2x of what Kota was. So having concluded that Sikar's performance is far better than what anyone can imagine, we said, is it because every center in Sikar actually outperformed? When we looked at that, that is where we actually found that while many centers were getting 2.83% and all, which is what a typical coaching hub would do. For example, Kota was about 3.5%. Some centers were getting at 12.5%, 10.5%, 9% and all, which means we're dealing with 8 times, 9 times, 10 times of the national average. So my simple thing is this. While the CBI is trying to investigate this particular case for 2026, for which we don't have data, by the way, and by the way, both in 24 and 26, the first reports of paper leakage emerged from Sikar. Even now in 26, the first report came from Special Operations Group of Rajasthan, based on which NTA cancelled that examination. And then it went to CBI, and they handed it over to CBI, and CBI also went to West and started arresting people in Pune and Nanded and all those things, right? But the first report, based on which the exam was cancelled, has come because of a report submitted by Special Operations Group of Rajasthan, and essentially they are talking about Sikar. And the 2 parents who were arrested also were from Sikar. 5 boys getting into, the children getting into.
Mr. Peri, did it also boil down to certain institutions in Sikar?
So that's what. So we're dealing with centers now. See, what happens is, Karthikeya, the corruption or leakage happens in 2 places, either the printing press or at the center level. When you're dealing with 5,500 centers, all it requires is at one particular center, the center head, the security person, and the bank manager being in cohorts. That's all it takes. We're depending on the integrity of people not to do that, or the fear of law in those people that they will not do that. But if 3 people get together, the paper is in your hand 3-4 days before the examination. Because the examination paper doesn't reach overnight, mind you, before the examination. It reaches 3-4 days before that. It is kept in a bank locker. Right. I'm not for one moment saying that these centers are wrong or these centers did something. I'm saying the starting point for any investigative agency is to look into data, especially in those places where there is complaint of a paper leakage happening, and you're anyway arresting people in those kind of
So
areas.
what is the data telling us in context of Sikar, sir? Apart from the fact that it was like way up than the national map, and because you are also talking about the corruption issue, and you say that the economy of corruption in NEET is huge. It's bigger than what people can even imagine.
Which is right. So again, if you want me to link the two, I'm not going to link the two. That is for the investigative agency thing. See, what is the financial incentive of a leakage? The cost of public education in the country for MBBS is 5 lakh rupees per 5 years. And the cost of private education in this country for MBBS is 1.5 crores. So the financial incentive is 1.45 crores for a parent, a student, or an examiner. That is what the math is at this point in time. So you cannot appeal to the moral conscience of people not to get into that, because the financial incentive is far too much for people to let it